Women in the Bible. Part 1. The Forgotten Mother, a story of survival, faith, and divine encounter. Hagar, an Egyptian woman and Sarah's Egyptian servant, is one of the most compelling figures in the Bible. She was a slave, a mother, and the first person recorded in Scripture to have an intimate encounter with the angel of the Lord. But her story is often overshadowed. Who was she? Why did God speak directly to her? In this episode, we uncover the powerful and untold journey of Hagar, a black woman who found herself caught in a web of power, rejection, and divine intervention. She was cast out into the wilderness with her son Ishmael, yet seen and comforted by God. Her story is one of endurance, faith, and God's providence. Join us on this deep dive into Hagar's journey and her lasting legacy in biblical history. In the grand tapestry of the Bible, some figures are celebrated, while others remain in the shadows. Hagar, Sarah's Egyptian servant, is one such woman. Though often overlooked, her story is one of survival, faith, and divine encounter. She was a mother who was abandoned, a woman who was oppressed, and yet she became the first person in Scripture to see and name God. This is her story, the servant and the promise. Hagar's origins trace back to Egypt, a land of splendor and power. As a servant in Abraham's household, she had no voice in her destiny. When Sarah, Abraham's wife, grew desperate for a child, she gave Hagar to Abraham as a surrogate, hoping to fulfill God's promise through her. It was a decision that would alter Hagar's life forever. Soon, tension filled the household. Sarah grew jealous, and Hagar, no longer just a servant, began to see herself differently. In her eyes, she was more than just a maid. She was a mother of Abraham's child, from slave to mother. Sarah's mistreatment became unbearable, and Hagar did the unthinkable. She ran. Alone and pregnant, she wandered the wilderness, vulnerable and afraid. But in the middle of her despair, something incredible happened. Once Hagar conceived, her status changed. No longer just a servant, she now carried Abraham's heir. But with this shift came jealousy, resentment, and mistreatment from Sarah. Feeling hopeless, Hagar fled into the wilderness. Divine encounter in the wildness. In her despair, Hagar encountered a divine presence. The angel of the Lord appeared, calling her by name, something Abraham and Sarah had never done. "Return to your mistress and submit to her," he said. But with this command came a promise. Her son, Ishmael, would become a great nation. The birth of Ishmael and the final rejection, God did not leave her without hope. He gave her a promise. Her son, Ishmael, would also become a great nation. She was no longer just a slave. She was the mother of a people destined to grow into multitudes. Hagar returned and in time gave birth to Ishmael, but Sarah later bore Isaac, the son of promise. Tensions flared once again. And when Sarah saw Ishmael playing with Isaac, she demanded that Abraham cast Hagar and Ishmael out into the wilderness. The desperate journey and God's intervention. Now I want you to visualize Hagar and Ishmael, wandering in the desert, exhausted and near collapse. Ishmael cried out, Hagar turning away, unable to watch her son die. Then an angel appeared once more, pointing to a well of water. In the scorching wilderness, Hagar and Ishmael faced death. Out of water and hope, she placed Ishmael under a bush and wept. But then God spoke, "Do not be afraid. Lift up the boy, for I will make him into a great nation." Miraculously, a well of water appeared, saving them. He sustained her, and Ishmael grew into a mighty warrior, just as God had promised. Hagar's legacy. I want you to imagine a grown Ishmael, strong and determined, leading a caravan in the desert. Hagar is standing on a hill, looking into the distance, hopeful. Hagar's story is one of resilience. She was cast aside but not forgotten. She was oppressed but not defeated. She was unseen by men but seen by God. She is the first person in Scripture to name God, El Roi, the God who sees. And from her son Ishmael came a great nation, Hagar's legacy endures as a testament to God's faithfulness to the forsaken. Her story reminds us that even in our darkest moments, God sees us, hears us, and provides for us. Hagar's story is one of survival, resilience, and divine favor. She was a black woman, an Egyptian, a mother who raised a nation. She may have been a servant in the eyes of the world, but in the eyes of God she was seen, she was heard, and she was loved. So the next time you feel invisible, remember Hagar. She was not forgotten, and neither are you. If this story of Hagar has moved you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more biblical deep dives. What lessons do you take from Hagar's journey? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, remember, God sees you just as he saw Hagar.